If you're watching this video, it's likely you've already watched others about the same subject. From that experience, what have you found many of them to have in common? You might agree that in many cases they are made and presented by someone who is telling you how they made their first million. But you are not them. You are a different person entirely, and what works for others might not work for you. Indeed, it probably won't. If you are the sort of person who lives by a regular routine of work, rest, and play with set times for each activity, then the anything-can-happen world of extreme business risk-taking is probably not for you. Likewise, if your life is pretty haphazard with no particular timetable and no single day like any other, you're unlikely to make a million by plotting a methodical step-by-step routine to that goal, and especially not someone else's route. What you need is an understanding of the principles involved in developing your own route to riches. With those, you can draw a map, calculate a timeline, set your goal, and develop a method that is personal, bespoke, and unique to you. Which brings us to the first rule. Rule number 1. Know yourself. In other words, you can only make that first million by sticking to your knitting. Do not pursue an approach that doesn't suit either your character, your abilities, or your outlook on life. Take, for example, the two very different characters and abilities of Bill Gates, co-founder and former chair of Microsoft Incorporated, and the late Steve Jobs, who co-founded and chaired Apple Inc. Both men came from highly supportive family backgrounds. On one side, Jobs' mom and dad were relatively poor. He was adopted as a baby, and his adoptive father was a high school dropout, machinist, and car salesman. On the other hand, in Gates' case, his father was a prominent Seattle lawyer, and the family were relatively rich. For both men, the wholehearted family support they received became crucial in their teenage years, when their shared fascination with electronics became evident. Gates wrote his first computer program when he was just 13, while Jobs' parents raided their precious savings so they could move from Mountain View, California to the Cupertino School District in the same state. The area had close links to Silicon Valley, allowing the difficult son, then aged 12, and already a rebel against authority and a bit of a loner, to follow more easily his love of engineering and electronics. In short, therefore, these two men, essentially co-creators of the personal computer, both knew who they were, or at least what they wanted to do with their lives from an early age. Rule number 2. You don't need money, but even a little bit helps. Nobody that's made their first million did so from absolutely nothing. Nobody. Unless, of course, they received an out-of-the-blue inheritance while they were still begging for change on Main Street. Even Ralph Lauren, we did a video about him, check it out, started with some money of his own. He was the son of an impoverished artist and house painter, but was working for a tie maker when he launched a side hustle making his own ties, with his employer's approval. That meant he had an income he could fall back on if his new ventures had failed to take off. As we know, that didn't happen, and he's now worth nearly $9 billion. For Bill Gates, money was never an issue. He dropped out of ultra-expensive Harvard in order to co-found Microsoft with his partner Paul Allen in April 1975, aged 19. The money for that wasn't theirs. It came from a distribution deal with an established maker of microcomputers. Meanwhile, neither Jobs nor his business partner Steve Wozniak had any money of their own when they founded Apple, almost exactly a year later, operating from Jobs' family home. The initial capital came from the sale of Wozniak's Hewlett-Packard scientific calculator and Jobs' Volkswagen van. For a Californian to give up their wheels in order to go into business is a level of sacrifice that's likely only fully understood by other Californians. Nevertheless, it illustrates the commitment, the obsession even, that will be needed if you are to get rich. It also segues neatly into the next rule. Rule number 3. All you need is love. Okay, love isn't the only thing. Nonetheless, it's much easier and massively more satisfying to make that first million by doing something you love to do, as opposed to saving nickels and dimes from your weekly paycheck with a grim face and putting them in a savings account. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are among the clearest and most powerful examples of that truth, but it's equally true of many other successful persons' career development. Only by loving what you do can you be willing, even happy, to make the sacrifices that may prove necessary for you to succeed. Ironically, the consequences of that love can include having to hurt the people you love the most, as the hours, days, weeks, months, and even years pile up while you devote yourself to building a business or developing an idea. Friends get forgotten, families fall apart, your health gets neglected, and so on. So if your family and friends come first in your life, maybe making $1 million isn't for you. On the other hand, there are plenty of newly rich people who made it largely because of the home support they had from the very start. Ralph Lauren married when he started working in the garment trade in 1964 at the age 25. He's still married to Ricky Ann. The success of Lauren and other early wed millionaires was, to a very significant extent, driven by the support and encouragement they got from married life. It enabled them to concentrate on their business, knowing that their day-to-day human needs were all looked after: shelter, food, clean clothes, and of course, a constant supply of love and sympathy. So yes, all you need might be your own love for what you do, endogenous love, let's call it. But the love and patient understanding that comes in marriage from another, exogenous love, can be just as important. A good marriage boosts health, promotes the understanding of other people, and helps to develop the art of compromise. Those are facts, by the way, not opinions. They are set out in a 2017 study by Carnegie Mellon University. That in turn leads us to the fourth rule. Rule number 4. Focus, focus, focus. While a good marriage may help you to concentrate on nailing that first million, a bad one will most surely do the opposite. That's because concentration is not just helpful, much more than that. It's essential to business success. So essential that it's an iron rule. Break it and fail. Don't take our word for it. When asked what factor do you feel has been the most important in getting to where you've gotten in life, Warren Buffett, hailed as the world's most successful investor and one of its 10 richest people, replied, "Focus." Bill Gates agrees, saying in reference to his own willingness to concentrate on his business, it was day and night. Although not born into poverty, his father was a US congressman, Buffett has said that even as a child he dreamed of becoming rich. He did paper rounds and other small jobs, bought and sold stuff, and by the time he was just 16, he saved today's equivalent of about $60,000. He made his first million by the time he was 30. 5 years ahead of the target he'd set for himself. And that's 1,960 million, by the way, equal to well over 10 times that amount today. Buffett put it all down to focus. His own concentration is such that he has only one hobby, which is playing bridge. Even there, his focus is intense. One story has him playing the card game solo one night at home when a bat flew into the window and flapped about the room. His then girlfriend screamed, but Buffett continued playing, saying, "It's not bothering me any." It's focus also that enables karate fighters with far less absolute muscle power than heavyweight boxers to smash bricks with their bare knuckles, or an Olympic figure skater to perform a triple axel. As you can surely see, it's this ability to focus that can also make successful people hard to be around. They rarely have time for, let alone any interest in small talk, nor in any of the little distractions that most of us seem to need to get through our day. A coffee break now and then, a movie, time with friends, listening to music, or whatever. As Golden Gecko, a hotshot stock market trader in the movie Wall Street, advised, if you need a friend, get a dog. But a dog too could be a distraction. The fifth and final rule for making your first million is rule number 5, embrace failure. It's been said that the mark of a true champion is not that they always win, because they don't, but that they recover quickly and completely from setbacks and failures. They learn from their mistakes when a lesser person might simply give up, and setbacks, errors, and calamities are inevitably in any effort to succeed. The greatest basketball player, Michael Jordan, summed it up this way: I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I have been entrusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. There's an even greater example in the career of Abraham Lincoln. He lost in business when he was just 21. He lost a legislative race when he was 22. He failed in business again at 24. His fiancée died when he was 26. He had a nervous breakdown the following year. He lost a congressional race when 34, lost a senatorial race at 45, failed to become vice president at 47, and lost a senatorial race at age 49. But he was elected President of the United States at age 52, becoming one of our and the world's most revered political heroes. An important key to overcoming setback, therefore, is not to take them personally. Even lots of failures do not make you a failure. Do not dwell on mistakes and rumors. If you do that, you are doomed to learn nothing from them. Instead, treat them impersonally. Analyze them dispassionately as something separate from yourself. What went wrong? Why? How? What lessons can you learn from them? As Henry Ford remarked, the only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing. Above all, don't worry what other people may think. As we emphasized at the start, this journey to a first million is completely yours, not theirs, not even partly. So, only 5 rules to make your first million. Just so, and maybe even those 5 are already too many. Because what really matters is what rules you. You and only you must have the will, the need, the tenacity, and the courage to follow what could be a solitary, risky, and difficult journey. You must want to take those steps, really, truly, deeply. For you, that $1 million goal cannot be just nice to have. It must be what drives and defines you. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What shapes your dreams at night? Without its attainment, in other words, you will not be you. And after getting there, the next steps will of course be onwards and upwards to the next million.